Welcome, everyone. My name is Shirley, and I will be your moderator this evening. I am excited to welcome Chloe Hironaka, Sales Coordinator at Unitas with Unitas Dental as our speaker tonight for 3 Secrets to Negotiating PPO Reimbursements. Please note that CE is not available for this webinar live or on demand. Chloe, welcome, and thank you for being with us tonight. I will pass it over to you now.
Thanks so much, Shirley, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. Super excited for today's webinar as always. And today we are going to be discovering the 3 secrets to negotiating PPO reimbursements. Again, my name is Chloe Hironaka, and I am the Sales and Marketing Coordinator here at Unitas PPO Solutions. And I absolutely love working with Unitas and my position as the Sales Coordinator because it gives me the opportunity to not only do these super fun webinars, but I get to chat with offices every single day and hopefully help them better understand their PPO participation and how to better their reimbursements to increase the revenue for their practice. So just some quick background on our company before we kind of dive into everything here. We have been doing this since 2011. So for about the past 12 years now, we've had the opportunity to work with thousands of practices all across the country. We've had clients in every single state. So lots of experience in data there. That's really, really great, especially when we work on behalf of our clients to negotiate and work with these insurance companies on their behalf, represent them as this united front. We currently represent over 1,400 active clients, again, keeping us very current in the industry. We are based out of Mesa, Arizona. So we do work remotely for all of our clients, and we make up a team of over 100 PPO insurance experts. So again, what we're going to be discovering today is going over our PPO negotiation and optimization framework. So specifically, we're going to be talking about how to identify and map out your specific PPO participation per doctor and identify issues. We're going to talk about how you can utilize a proven 3-step PPO negotiation framework to boost your success. And then we're going to share the simple calculation to use when forecasting your PPO negotiation return on investment. So lots of really great information coming at you. This really is, again, what we're doing day in and day out for our clients, and we're going to share that information with you. So to help us along the way, we have a PPO negotiation quick start guide. So there will be quite a bit of information we're going to be trying to get through here this next hour webinar. So go ahead and pull out your phone, scan this QR code, or if you don't have that ability, go to www.ppoguide.com and go ahead and download this PPO negotiation quick start guide. Totally free, and it's going to actually walk you through the whole framework that I'm going to be going through with you today. So that way you can refer back to that information and kind of have that to access here as we go through everything. Of course, if you have any questions along the way, I encourage you to take lots of notes. You can put your questions in the chat box or in the Q&A, and I will make sure that I reach out and get those answered for you. But make sure again that you download this quick start guide. Alrighty, so jumping right in, the first thing we're going to chat about is how to identify and map out your specific PPO participation per doctor and identify issues. So when it comes to mapping out your PPO participation or really understanding where you're currently at, that's obviously a pretty crucial step before we jump into negotiations. Just like an X-ray with a patient, we got to see where everything's currently at and then come up with a game plan as to how we're going to fix it. So we want to make sure that we discover and map out each provider's specific participation with each insurance company. We want to make sure that we receive and document all of your fee schedule reimbursements and that those are accurate. And then we want to compare and repair your UCR versus reimbursement discrepancies. So first, when it comes to just looking at your current PPO participation, there's technically 3 different ways that you can be considered an in-network participating provider. You can be directly contracted, you could be a network through another PPO, we call this PPO to PPO leasing, or you can be a network through what we call an umbrella network. And depending on which of these participation types your provider is going to totally determine the fee schedule that you end up utilizing. So a lot of times, you call the insurance up and they'll say, you'll say, are we a network? Yes or no? And they'll just say, yes, you're a network, or no, you aren't. But that's not really a sufficient enough answer, because again, there's really these 3 different ways that you can be a network, and we need to know which one you are, because then that's going to tell us if we need to get the current fee schedule from that company or from the company that you're being leased out through. So you want to make sure, again, that you're being super, super specific in verifying this per doctor and per location. Now, I understand that when you have doctors credentialed under the same tax ID number, you're assuming that they are participating the same, but that's not always the case. In fact, it's very, very common, probably more often than not, for there to be discrepancies, even between doctors that are credentialed at the same location under the same tax ID number. And same thing goes for other locations, even if it's the same providers or same tax ID number. You always want to double check there. So one of the bonuses that you're going to get at the end of this webinar is actually a contact list of provider relations, so that this can help you as you go throughout this process and make sure that you're calling the right places. And then the other thing that is going to help you really prepare, that I recommend doing, is just getting a spreadsheet ready, especially if you do have multiple providers. This is going to make it a lot easier as you're calling all these insurance companies and marking what participation status they are. So in your first column, you're going to want to list out all of the national or major insurance payers that you're with. If you're with a ton and you just don't even know where to start, I would recommend just start with the major ones and then kind of go from there. And then you can list each provider in the following columns. And then again, that way you can just kind of go through, and it's like a little checklist, and you can mark if they're in network or not, if they're direct or if they're through another company. And then again, when you're calling and asking, just make sure that you're verifying if they're direct. Then you want to make sure that you get their effective date. So essentially when they became directly contracted with that company. And then you also want to request a copy of your current fee schedule. Okay. And then if they say that you're through another company, just make sure you note down which company that is, and then that's who you're going to reach out to for the fee schedule. So just to quickly further elaborate on these different participation types and why they really determine which fee schedule you're going to be utilizing, whenever you're directly contracted with an insurance company, that means at some point in time, you would have actually submitted a direct credentialing application to that specific company, agreeing to be a network provider, and they assign you a fee schedule. So when those insured patients start coming into your practice, you treat them, you're a network, you submit the claim, you're going to be reimbursed according to this insurance company's fee schedule. So this obviously is the most straightforward relationship type you can have with an insurance. Used to be the only way you can participate. The industry's changed a lot in the last few years. But again, big thing to remember here is that when you have a direct contract, you're going to get paid on that company's fee schedule. But now we have what we call PPO to PPO leasing. And this is where it starts to get pretty confusing a lot of times for providers, because these relationships are constantly changing and they happen automatically, or a lot of times without the provider even realizing it. So basically, a lot of the insurance companies now have partnered together and they've formed these PPO to PPO leasing relationships, or these partnerships between one another, in which they basically, to grow their networks, agree to lease any provider that's become directly contracted with them out to any other insurance company that they've formed this partnership with. So what that means for the provider is when those other insured patients start coming into your practice from the company you're being leased out to, you're still going to be considered in network. It may vary by the specific plan, but you actually are going to be in network. But when you submit the claim, you're actually going to get reimbursed according to the insurance company that you are directly contracted with, that's leasing you out to that other payer. So very, very common. Again, lots of the insurances are participating in some sort of leasing relationship like this. And that's why all the time I'll hear from providers, they'll be like, yeah, I just found out that I was supposedly in network with this insurance. I don't remember ever submitting a contract to them, and I have no record of that. It's probably because something like this is happening. And then we have the umbrella networking relationship. So that's going to be very similar, basically the same concept as the PPO to PPO leasing relationship that I just explained. The easiest way to think of the umbrella networks is probably thinking of them as being like a broker. They were designed to recruit a lot of providers and put you in network with tons of PPOs, hence the name umbrella. So depending on which umbrella network you contract with, there's really 5 major companies that are considered umbrellas or third-party administrators that do this, but you're going to be paid on that umbrella's fee schedule. So again, as you can see, a lot of these companies are all linked together. And so that's why it all comes down to who you have that direct contract as to what fee schedule you're ultimately going to end up utilizing. So that's why it's super, super crucial to understand how you're currently participating, because that's going to tell you what needs to be done in order to negotiate or optimize. So the next thing we want to chat about is receiving and documenting your actual fee schedule reimbursements. So again, as I mentioned, to save time here, as you're calling and verifying the participation status, as soon as you find out that they're direct, I would just ask for a copy of your current fee schedule right then and there. Even if you think you have it, you always want to make sure you're looking at the most current fee schedules. Once we do get into negotiations, you want to be able to compare and see obviously the accurate fees there. So call provider relations. You can also check your provider portal. A lot of PPOs store your fee schedule there, so then you can just simply download it right off of that. Sometimes they'll email or fax it to you. Again, specific to each doctor in each location. And then the other thing you want to make sure is that you're, of course, updating that new fee schedule into your Dentrix or whatever practice management software that you typically use. So the last thing we want to look at here before we head to the table to negotiate is comparing and repairing your UCRs and reimbursement discrepancies. So what you want to do is you want to get another spreadsheet, and you want to plug in all of your current fee schedules and compare your top 20 to 35 UCRs versus those reimbursements. So what I would do is in your first column, you're going to list out all of your procedure codes. And then in the next column, list out the UCRs. So what your office fees are for those procedures. And then in each column, list out each insurance company that you're participating with or that you're directly contracted with. So you're using their fee schedule, and plug in those fee schedules so that it all matches. And then that way, you can see all that side-by-side comparison and increase your UCRs where necessary. Again, you don't actually have to do all of your procedures. I would at least just focus, if you're a general practitioner, focus on your top 20 to 35 UCRs. But no UCR should be at or below your highest reimbursing PPO fee schedule. So that's bare minimum. You do not want any UCR to be at or below your highest reimbursing fee schedule. And then what I really recommend doing is utilizing a available percentile-based analysis tool to also ensure that your UCRs are actually competitive for your area. We use Henry Schein's fee analysis tool for our clients, so definitely recommend that one, but there's several out there that you can look at, but that one's very, very accurate and looks at it for your specific zip code. And again, just make sure that you are in a competitive percentile. We have seen a correlation between what the insurance companies are willing to negotiate and reimburse you and what your procedures are priced at. So again, biggest thing, make sure at least that your UCRs have been updated and they're above your highest paying fee schedule. but I really would do the fee analysis for your area. All righty. So that's pretty much everything as far as preparing for the negotiation process. For anyone that maybe hopped on here a little bit late, just again, before we move into our next topic here, I strongly encourage you to download this PPO negotiation quick start guide. If you haven't already, you can scan this QR code. It'll take you directly to it. Otherwise, you can head to www.ppoguide.com, and it's going to cover, if you missed it, everything that we just went over and everything moving forward. All righty. So now we want to chat about how you can utilize our proven 3-step PPO negotiation framework to boost your success. So there's really three steps, 3 keys here when it comes to negotiations. So first, we want to ensure that you don't waste time on the wrong procedures. We want to chat about how you can effectively approach the PPO negotiation process. And then we're going to talk about how you can compare offers that you receive from the PPOs. Alrighty, so ensuring that you don't waste time on the wrong procedures. So in order to do this, you really want to look at a utilization report or your 12-month production summary. So you can get that from your practice management software. You just want to ensure that the report is sorted so that it's listed by procedure code, quantity, and production. And then that way you can rank it, and you want to sort it by highest grossing production to determine your top 20 to 35 codes. Again, that's the range I would focus on if you're a general doctor, a general dentist. So if you're a specialist, obviously you can look at all of your codes if you don't have as many procedures there. And then you're also going to use these top 35 codes or codes of most concern when you're approaching the negotiation process. A lot of times companies may ask for those, what codes you're specifically looking at. And then of course, when we're comparing fee schedule offers, we want to make sure that those codes especially are looking good, because that's where you're going to see the biggest increase in your overall revenue, is by increasing the procedures that you're doing all the time. And I just was going to note that if you don't know how to run a production summary, don't worry, you can contact your practice management software customer service, and they should easily be able to walk you through how to run that report. Or you can even just do a light Google. A lot of them have the instructions that pull up right away. It's super step by step. And then again, you'll be able to run that report pretty easily. So when you're approaching the negotiation process, one thing that you want to know is that most PPOs are going to consider negotiations every 2 to 3 years. Obviously, there's some that may vary with that timeline, but that's typically their rule of thumb, is every 2 years from the time that you're originally contracted or from when you last negotiated is when they're going to consider you eligible to renegotiate the fee schedule. So the next step is obvious. You're going to want to reach out to provider relations and request a fee schedule increase or a fee schedule review. Now, with contacting provider relations, for every company, it's a little different in the negotiation process as to who they may direct you to handle that request. And again, some additional information they may want you to provide them. That's why you want to have those top codes ready to go. And of course, your office information to give to them. But again, pay attention to your PPO participation and any leasing arrangements. To not waste time, only ask for increases on the fee schedules for the main payer. So for example, if you find out that you're in network with Guardian, but it's through your Aetna contract, so you're being paid on Aetna's contracted fees, then who are you going to reach out to negotiate with? Aetna, because Aetna is the one that you have the direct contract with and the contracted fees that you're on. So you're not going to reach out to Guardian and ask for an increase. They're going to be confused. They might even not even respond to you. You're going to need to reach out to Aetna, since that's who the fee schedule is with. Alrighty, so when it comes to comparing your offers that you're getting from the PPOs, again, now that you've identified your procedures that have the highest quantity in production, revenue, you have those top 20 to 35 codes, you're going to want to do another spreadsheet, surprise, surprise. And you're going to want to list your UCR or your procedure code, UCR, and then what you're currently being reimbursed from that specific insurance company. And then in the fourth column, list out what the increased fee schedule is. That way you can see the comparison between your UCR, what you're currently being reimbursed, and what the increase is. And then if you really want to get fancy in it, in a fifth and sixth column, you can do the dollar gain or increase, and then the revenue increase as well. So you can definitely go more elaborate on it if you wish. But again, the main thing here is we just want to pay close attention to ensure that they're not increasing random procedures or procedures that you're never doing. And definitely want to make sure that they're not decreasing codes that you're doing all the time. Sometimes that does happen when an insurance company gives you an alternative fee schedule. And I've seen offices sadly fall into that trap where they just take a really quick glance at it. They trust it for an increase and they sign off on it. They're now locked into that for 2 years and they just decrease their codes on stuff that they're doing all the time. So again, that's why you really want to focus on the frequency there. Obviously, $100 increase on something that you're never doing is going to be outweighed by a $5 decrease, depending on the frequency. So once you accept the fee schedule, once you've analyzed, everything looks good, you tell the representative you're working with that you accept the offer and they get that in place for you. Just note that it usually does take a little bit of time for the new fee schedule to actually go into effect. So most fee schedules are going to take anywhere from 30 to 90 days to go into effect. So for the insurance to actually start paying you on that new fee schedule. So just make sure that you have that effective date, the new fees, you update your practice management software with that new fee schedule, and then audit your EOBs after accepting to ensure that they're paid on the correct reimbursement amount. So that's kind of the key steps for approaching the negotiation process. Make sure that you're focusing on the right procedures, make sure you're calling the right places, and that you're really paying close attention when analyzing the offers. Alrighty, so now I want to chat about forecasting your PPO negotiation return on investment. So you want to ensure that your PPO fees are actually competitive for your area. We're going to talk about optimization options and how to minimize those risks and maximize those benefits. And then I'm going to show you how to do a really quick and easy calculation to calculate your return on investment from going through this PPO negotiation framework that we've gone over today. Alrighty, so to ensure PPO offers are competitive for your area. Now, this really is where our company comes into hand. Comes into play. This is where you're really going to maximize your opportunities and your revenue for your practice. Obviously, if you take all the tips that I've given today and start reaching out and negotiating your contracts, that really is the framework that we follow. And I think you really can be successful doing that. But really the only way that you're going to know that your offers truly are competitive for your area is if you have a third-party company that has access to that information. So again, you don't want to get locked into a low fee schedule because you're only able to do this every 2 years. We have the data to compare your offers and determine how competitive they are. We also have high-level dedicated insurance contacts that most practices are not going to have access to. And we do know the different strategies, because they do vary between each company, that are the most efficient when it comes to negotiating your contracts. So we've done this for literally thousands of practices nationwide. We have a highly trained team, over 100 consultants with years of experience and a proven track record of doing this PPO negotiation and optimization framework successfully for practices. And in addition to not only helping with the negotiation side of things, really where our company adds a lot of value is going through optimization. So Optimization, I never really go into a ton of detail on webinars just because even if I wanted to, it is so complex and super like case by case and office specific that there really is not necessarily like a step-by-step formula that you can follow like there is for negotiations. So this is, like I said, really where we come in. I would never recommend an office even attempt optimization on their own just because it can be risky. You're making very major contract changes that can affect your patient base and who you're in network with. So you want to just be very careful when you're looking at these opportunities, but it's also very high reward, and where a lot of providers are honestly starting to see the biggest jump in their reimbursements, especially the way the industry is going. So if you remember me going through all those different participation types, you've realized that PPOs have multiple paths to participation. And like I said, depending on how you're contracted, that's ultimately what's determining the fee schedule you're on. And so because we have a very thorough understanding of these different relationships and path options for each PPO, we can basically not only negotiate and get current fee schedule offers on the table for all insurance companies, but we can help your office identify the highest reimbursing path to participation, whether that be in making sure that you are directly contracted with that specific company, or if it's going to be better to go through another PPO or through one of those umbrella networks, or if you're currently being leased out through a lower paying PPO plan and you're like, I'm getting all these plans and I don't know who I'm in network with, I'm defaulting to this lower fee schedule. Obviously, that's super frustrating. This is how we fix it, is we have to go in and fix that contracting that's going on and really manage these leasing relationships. So we can, again, we're here to help identify those arrangements that may be more profitable than just relying on sole negotiations. And we understand all of the optimizations, risks, and timelines and everything involved there. But essentially what we're also doing is, again, as we're reaching out to negotiate these direct contracts, we're reaching out to these other insurance companies that, again, maybe you're currently being leased out to and saying, okay, if doctor was to become directly contracted with you instead, what's the best fee schedule you'd be willing to offer? And a lot of times with these PPO to PPO leasing relationships, this insurance company would rather have you as a direct contract and pay you a higher fee schedule than have to pay huge leasing fees to this company to be like the middleman. So again, if you can reach out and negotiate this company and they may come up, but there's potential that going with this insurance would still be higher, or putting them through a different PPO would also be a higher reimbursing path. So that's why we want to get those options on the table. So for over 10 years now, we've implemented this plan and framework for thousands of doctors across the country. We've really helped pioneer representation for dentists. So because of that, we do have calculations and some average results here that can help you estimate your return on investment going through this framework. So typically offices, between negotiations and optimization of their reimbursements, will see anywhere between a 10 to 18% increase across the board on their reimbursements. 18% increase or above is going to be above average range. 4% would be considered below. Now, a really quick and easy way that you can actually estimate your practice's annual revenue increase is if you take your annual production before write-offs. So if we say it's $1 million, all right, and then we take your percentage of patients under negotiable PPOs. Now, the reason we say negotiable here is because most PPOs do have negotiating or optimization opportunities. Except for Delta is going to be the more major PPO that historically does not negotiate. So I typically advise offices to exclude Delta because we don't suspect at this point in time a lot of change there. So whatever percentage of your PPO patients, if you think, okay, I'm like 80% PPO, 20% cash, but maybe 30% Delta, that's going to get you down to more of like the 50% range. If you don't know, but you are in network with a lot of PPOs and think you're pretty PPO heavy, 50% is a pretty conservative estimate that you can use. And then you just want to multiply that by your annual production before write-offs again. And then that's going to give you what we would consider your negotiable production, or essentially the revenue that fluctuates based on your reimbursements, right? Or is really capped based on what the insurance companies are willing to reimburse you. And so then you can just multiply this by that scale to see, okay, if we were to experience the average 10% increase on our reimbursements, that would be like a $50,000 annual revenue increase for our practice just in this first year, right? And then if you were to do the 18% or above range, that's like a $90,000 annual revenue increase in this case, even at the 4% below average range, which honestly, normally when I see clients in this range, it's because maybe they're with more limited PPOs, or maybe they've already been keeping up on their negotiations, just more limited options, or they don't optimize. But even that, I mean, a $20,000 annual revenue increase in this case. So obviously you can just, these are going to fluctuate based off of what these numbers are here, but that's how you plug that in and can actually apply these average percentages for your practice to see what your annual revenue increase would be. So I did want to share some results here. And again, of just shedding some light as to how this really can impact your revenue. We worked with Dr. Morgan in North Carolina. They had 5 PPO negotiated contracts and 2 optimizations, and that was a $64,000 annual revenue increase for their practice. Dr. Baker in Texas, they had 5 negotiated PPO contracts, 3 PPO optimizations, and that was a $79,000 annual revenue increase for their practice. And Dr. Young in Florida, they had 7 negotiated PPO contracts, 4 optimizations, and their practice saw in their first year over $100,000 in additional revenue. So again, there's probably money sitting on the table in your reimbursement rates. And we all know that you are working so hard to provide excellent care to these patients. You're in network with these PPOs. You deserve to get paid more for what you're doing. So it's easy to put PPO negotiations and really looking hard at who you're in network with and what's going on the back burner because you're trying to juggle a million other things. But the reality is that every time you're treating a PPO patient, you could be losing money because you have not kept up on these negotiations and aren't managing your PPO situation. So we don't want that to happen. That's why, again, we're so happy to share this information with you. And we really do hope that this framework can help you start implementing this for your practice sooner than later. And again, of course, we're here to help. So just to recap on these 3 key strategies to increasing your reimbursements, you want to ensure that you are understanding your PPO participation and current reimbursements. Make sure you're mapping out that status with each provider for each location. You're documenting all your current fee schedules. You want to be tactful when it comes to approaching negotiations. Make sure you're calling the main payer. Don't waste time on the wrong procedures. Focus on those top codes of most concern for your practice. That's going to make the biggest difference for you. And then, of course, maximize your negotiation opportunities by partnering with us, PPO consultants, to evaluate any additional opportunities to maximize that in-network participation. So you're probably feeling a little bit like this right now, right? Information overload. I know that, like I said, we covered a lot in a pretty short amount of time. So again, please, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A, and I will make sure to respond to those. Otherwise, you can definitely reach out. We are offering a free consultation, which I'm going to go over next here, and make sure that you download this PPO negotiation quick start guide. So I'll put it up here one last time. It's www.ppoguide.com, and here's the handy QR code if you can scan that. But yeah, ppoguide.com, that's going to have the whole framework that we went through today, as well as any other additional info there. So what's going to happen next, right? When we get off this webinar, you're going to go back to treating patients. You're going to go back to scheduling appointments. You're going to go back to whatever you're doing, depending on what time it is. You may be finishing up for the day, go get some dinner. So if it's okay with you, like I said, we know that this cannot be on the back burner any longer. We need to get you increased revenue now, and you need these higher PPO reimbursements ASAP. So if it's okay with you, I want to make you an offer that can hopefully help you implement this a little bit faster. So if you can go right now to www.ppoguide.com/go. So maybe you already have the tab open from doing the quick start guide, but just add that /go. Or again, here's another QR code to get you exactly to it. So go ahead and scan that. It's going to lead you to our consultation scheduling page. So I would love for you to schedule, everyone on this webinar, to schedule a free 30-minute phone consultation with one of our representatives. It might even be me. I might be the one you end up talking to again. So if you do, make sure you tell me that you are on this webinar, so that we can review your PPO insurances and talk specifics about your practice and how we can help you. And we'll calculate your potential ROI and identify which of our services you're best suited for. So we'll see how we can help you, if we can even help you based on what you're looking for and what your status is. And then if you schedule this consultation call with us, for being on this webinar, you're also going to get all these awesome limited time bonuses. So these are totally exclusive to webinar watchers who, again, also schedule the consultation. So do it right now while you're on your computer before you log off or leave. Just go on here. Our calendar will pull up. There's tons of available dates. Pick a time that works for you, and then we'll get on that consultation call. But what you're also going to get as your bonuses is that provider relations master list that I mentioned earlier. So again, we make hundreds of phone calls to PPO insurances every single month. So it's a pretty safe bet that we have a pretty solid contact list that can save you literally hours of sitting on hold. We know that there's nothing worse than calling an insurance, sitting on hold, and then realizing it's the wrong department. Maybe it's completely the wrong company. We know you do not have time for that. So this is going to help you collect your PPO participation faster by knowing who to call. And then, of course, you can print this out, keep it handy, use it for all of your needs. We value this at $199, and you're getting this completely free. The next bonus you're going to get is our e-guide. So this is our e-guide to the 35 most common insurance problems and how to avoid them. So after years of doing this, we have talked to a lot of doctors. And so we have compiled our top PPO solutions to our most commonly asked questions from our offices. So this covers so much helpful information. It has anything from down coding, balance billing, out-of-network benefits, how to bill out-of-network, info changes, if you're undergoing a tax ID change or a business name change, key steps to adding an associate to PPOs, and much, much more. So again, this is going to hopefully be a huge time saver for you and just save you tons of headache. I know that PPO insurance questions come up all the time, and it's not always super clear on who will have that answer, who to turn to. So hopefully this is something that, again, maybe some of the questions that you have, or maybe some things that you've never even thought about, we'll have some solutions for you. So we value this at $299, getting completely free. Alrighty, and this has got to be probably one of my favorite bonuses. So throughout this webinar, obviously several different steps required you to make a Excel spreadsheet or a spreadsheet, right? And if you're like me, I'm not always the most confident when it comes to those types of things. So what's very nice is we're going to give you your own fee schedule analysis tool that we have created. Again, this is the exact tool that we actually use to analyze our clients' UCRs and PPO fee schedules. So it literally already has automated formulas and calculations for you, so that when you're plugging in all of your fees, it will highlight the discrepancies between your UCRs and your reimbursements so that it stands out to you. It'll show, what the increases and decreases are in fees. So super, super, super helpful when you're, again, going through all of these steps and comparing all the fee schedules. So we value this at $499. You're getting completely free. And again, this is what our company uses for our clients to do the analysis for them. So to recap, this is what you're going to get. You're going to do the consultation call, right? And hopefully most of you have already scheduled, but if you haven't, ppoguide.com/go, scan the QR code, schedule right now. That doesn't mean you have to do the consultation right now, but pick a date and time that works and get that on the calendar here. So on that call, you're going to get a PPO evaluation and ROI projection, totally complimentary. You're going to get our e-guide of the 35 common insurance problems at $199 value. You're going to get our PPO provider relations master list at the $299 value. You're going to get the PPO fee schedule analysis tool at the $499 value. And then, of course, you're getting hours of safe time and higher PPO reimbursements rates. You're getting on that path already, which is priceless and going to increase your revenue exponentially for your practice. So you're getting a total value of $997 completely free. And I see in our Q&A, someone saying that they're driving and can't schedule now. That's okay. No worries. Just make sure that you save this recording, or you'll get the recording. Make sure you save this the URL, and you can always schedule later. So don't worry about that. But all righty. So thank you again, everyone, so much for your time and joining today. I really appreciate it. Hopefully you found this information helpful. I'm going to spend the last few minutes here doing some FAQ. I also do see one Q&A in the chat that I will answer as well. So if there's any others, you can put them in there. I may answer them live if I have time. Otherwise, I'll reach out and answer via email. You can send any questions to the PPO solutions at unitasdental.com. That's our inbox. We can definitely get back to you there. But what I really do encourage you to do is schedule the consultation. If you have a bunch of questions, that's where you're going to get the best answers and the most thorough, is if you just get on a consultation call with us. But yeah, if anything pops up, you can send them to that inbox. But yeah, some general FAQs I always like to address, because these are going to be the most commonly asked questions that we get. One, are there any PPOs that won't negotiate? So yes, I addressed this earlier. The biggest PPO, or I should say the most major one that does not negotiate, is going to be Delta Dental. It's very, very rare to see them deviate from their standard zip coded fee schedules. We historically have not successfully seen individual offices or us negotiate with them. And then they also do not have optimization options, unfortunately, at this time. So that's also why I generally say they're one that our hands are going to be the most tied with, because they don't partner with any other company. So it's really a matter of being in or out of network with them. Sometimes we can look at is if you're eligible to be a Premier only provider instead of being Delta PPO and Premier, but that does vary by state. So again, that's something that's a great thing that we can chat about on a consultation call with you. But yeah, that's going to be the biggest one there that, again, we constantly get asked about. Unfortunately, even us being the biggest PPO management company in the industry, we've really yet to see those inroads with Delta. But I always say, I always encourage offices, and for our clients, we continue to reach out to try to attempt to negotiate with Delta. So please do continue reaching out to them, even though I'm telling you that they don't. We want providers to continually request and attempt negotiations, because the only way that positive change is going to occur is if providers continually push for that change. So yeah, so that's going to be the big one. Of course, there's other PPOs that may go through seasons in which they're more susceptible to negotiations than not. But that's why, again, our company really hones in on the optimization, because again, that's where most providers, the reimbursements are really starting to get lower, or they're in network with more PPOs than they maybe need to be, or they're not with the right plans. So that's where you're still gonna, really open up all those avenues and have those options for increasing your reimbursements. Alrighty, so can we work with Unitas? What do you charge? Yes, absolutely. We would love to work with you. That's why I want you to get on the consultation call so that we can start talking through your situation and start strategizing here. As far as our fees, I don't love giving this answer, but we really do have a couple different services that vary in price. And so, again, on that consult call, once we assess, how many locations, how many providers, how many PPOs you're with, what PPOs, kind of start getting those baseline questions answered, that's going to help us determine which service you're best suited for. And then, of course, we'll give you the accurate quote at that time. So again, if you're interested, please let's get on a call and we can go over all of our service options and fees with you. Okay, we're thinking about dropping PPOs. Is that something that you can help with? Yes, absolutely. If you are already in that space where, again, you're noticing all of that leasing, you're just being like, oh my gosh, it seems like I'm with everybody. It's way too much. I'm in the space where I'm booked out. I can't even accept new patients right now. Very good time to evaluate your PPO situation. And also on the reverse, if you are noticing very slow patient flow and you're only in network with like Delta or are with very few PPOs, maybe time to consider adding some other plans in. So definitely adding or dropping is something that we can help with. Dropping, again, you want to be very careful because of all these leasing relationships. You don't know what's linked together or what's not. And so I always advise that you are very careful before dropping a PPO to make sure that that's not the PPO that's linking you to something that you do want to remain in network with, because you need to find another path to participation for that PPO you do want to stay with. Okay, for opening or purchasing a new practice, how do I set up my PPO contracts? And do I need to get credentialed if I'm already in network at another location? Okay, so, and I think that, we have a question on this, so this is perfect. They asked for startup practices, would you suggest starting the negotiation before opening? So yes, when you're setting up PPO contracts, really whenever you're adding a PPO, you want to negotiate first, because again, as soon as you submit that credentialing application, I've actually realized a lot of providers don't realize this, but that you literally are telling them that you are agreeing to be in network. It's not, you're not just giving them your credentials and then deciding they're going to process that application and put you in network. They're assigning you a fee schedule. So the minute you submit that, you basically lose your power to negotiate or that leverage there. So you want to make sure that you reach out and negotiate fee proposals first. And then again, we can compare all the offers and strategize and see the best, most strategic path to credential you. So that's what I recommend. We have a whole department that works specifically with startup practices, or if it's an acquisition, if you're purchasing a practice, in which we will go through that whole process for you. And we do the negotiations, we get the proposals, we make the credentialing recommendations, and we go through the whole credentialing process. So highly recommend discussing that with us if you are acquiring or setting up a new practice. And the sooner we can chat about that, the better, because it is quite a process. You may know that just credentialing with a PPO typically takes 90 to 120 days for them to process an application. So again, sometimes providers are super shocked when they hear that. Sometimes if you're in network at another location within the same state, it can go a little quicker, but you still do have to contract at the new specific location you're going to be practicing at. And that's the timeline we usually plan on. And also going through a network, one of those umbrella networks, it's going to take some additional time if you go that route, because they have to relay that information to all the individual payers that you're accessing through that network. So the sooner you can get that process started, the better. But yeah, I mean, whenever you're setting up new practice, that gives you the opportunity to set everything up right from the get-go. So you can like set your UCR super competitive, get the proposals, pick who you're with. So very crucial. Definitely want to chat with us about that. Okay, and then if I'm adding an associate and I want them to treat insured patients, do they need to be credentialed, or can I just bill under me, the owner? Okay, so this is a question that I get on the daily from offices. So whenever you have associate doctors and you are wanting them to be in network and treat those patients, you need to ensure that you get them credentialed. Okay, so they can be credentialed under the owner's tax ID number and have that as the billing entity. That's completely fine. But on the claim, you'll notice that it will ask who the billing entity is, right? And that's when you can put the owner doctor, the location, the tax ID number, the EIN. And then on the other side of the claim, it'll ask who the treating or rendering provider is. Okay, that's how the claim's actually going to process. So if you put an associate and they're not credentialed as the treating provider, then it's going to process this out of network. So that's why you need to ensure that you get them credentialed if you are wanting them to be an in-network participating provider. And again, we offer credentialing services. So if you are having associates and you're like, oops, I need to get them credentialed, definitely we can help you out with that and make sure that they get added to the right PPO plans that you are needing them to be. So those are, like I said, really the most commonly asked questions, or some of the most commonly asked questions that we're getting from providers. I will answer this other one that's in the Q&A here really quickly. They ask, what are the 5 umbrella companies? So really the 5 major umbrella networks are going to be Carrington, Zealous, Premier Dental Group, Connection, and Dentamax. So if any of those are ringing a bell, those are really the 5 most major umbrella network companies. But anyways, so that's pretty much all the information we have for you today. If you have any other questions, again, please feel free to email them to pposolutions@unitasdental.com and schedule that consultation. And yeah, we look forward to speaking with you. Thank you all so much again for your time today. We're going to be sending out this recording, or it'll be uploaded for you to view on demand. Thank you all so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Chloe, for a wonderful presentation this evening, and thank you all for joining us tonight. We did record tonight's webinar, and we'll email the recording out sometime in the next week. We would appreciate your feedback via our survey that will pop up on your screen shortly. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars.